Grant Paulsen, Grant and Danny Show, 106.7 The Fan, CBS in Washington. Big baseball guy. Grant, it's Brandon. How are you, buddy? What's happening?
DT, what's up, man? How are you?
All good. Following this from a distance, I was thinking maybe Gardenhire was the way to go. Bud Black, to me, made no sense. Dusty Baker's the guy, clearly. But I guess before we get to whether or not it's a good hire and all the ramifications, did they truly offer Bud Black a one-year contract?
You believe that? I mean,
No.
that's the report, and it's not being reported by outlets I haven't heard before. I mean, these are the people that cover the Nationals better than anybody, that cover Major League Baseball on a national level, as plugged in as a microwave, who are saying this. 1 year and about $1.6 million. Now, that figure as an annual average value, while a little bit low, is extremely low if you're only offering a year at a time. You would bump that number up if you're only going to offer a year. But the idea that you bring a guy in who's a 9-year skipper, who's respected, by the way. Most of the people in baseball circles that I talked to thought that Bud Black was the best candidate for the job, regardless of whether you agree with that or not. Some people don't, and that's fine. You don't offer that guy a year. That's laughable. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe it. And that's where the Nationals are right now is supposedly he agreed to the deal. Then he was blown away with the offer that came after he agreed to be the manager of the team, and they worked through and ironed out a lot of the details of power structure and things like that. And then they settled on Dusty Baker, and they're selling it PT like this is the guy they wanted all along.
Wow. Is it just a lack of resources or just cheapness?
It would be the latter. I mean, it's not resources.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
They finished sixth in payroll at one point last season when all the numbers got crunched and everyone took out their calculators, up over $160 million. They have an absorbent amount of money. The learners who own the Washington Nationals are one of the richest ownership groups in the sport. So the idea that when you're shelling out $126 million to Jason Worth and $131 million to Ryan Zimmerman, and you bring in Max Scherzer and back up the Brinks trucks for $215 million, prorating like 7 years of that deal after the fact, and all the creative ways that they spent money and all the Boris clients that they brought in here, that you can't find a couple $1 million over 2 or 3 years to pay a manager. That just doesn't make any sense.
That is one of the more bizarre things I've seen in a lot. I mean, that really, I said, we got to get somebody on from D.C. Get my man Grant on. And Santa reached out. It's Grant Paulsen, host of Grant and Danny, 106.7 The Fan, CBS in Washington, D.C. All right, so Dusty Baker comes to the spring training, pitchers and catchers right around Valentine's Day, give or take a few days either way. What is the first thing that he's got to repair? What's his first bold act? What does he really have to fix?
Well, Brendan, the one thing he's got to do initially is get Jason Worth on his side. As silly as that sounds, because Worth's at the end of his career. He's got a skill set that is slightly diminishing at this point. They've already moved him from right to left field. You'll likely see him move down in the batting order, specifically with Dusty Baker at the controls now, who's not a big believer in on-base percentage at the top of his order, as you probably know. But, I mean, this is a guy who really does, in a lot of ways, run that clubhouse. There were stories that came out last year when Matt Williams lost the team that Jason Worth was kind of the first one off the boat. He jumped into the water and at one point ripped the lineup off the wall reportedly and went into Williams' office and said, when did you lose this team? Because he didn't tell Jason Worth he was going to be off, and then he didn't write his name in a lineup at one point before a game against the Brewers. And that's some of the reporting that was done here in D.C. So I think he's got to get him on his side. Matt Williams tried to do that early on, visited him at his house. But the big thing is, I think this is where Dusty actually will be really good.
Yep.
For all of the philosophical issues that he has, the fact that I like to call him, a flip phone in the smartphone world, he is a relationships guy.
He is.
Players love him.
Yep.
I've been reaching out to different Reds and Cubs. I talked to Todd Hollinsworth, Devin Mesoraco. I mean, guys that span 13, 14 years in baseball. I haven't found anybody who doesn't like Dusty Baker. He worked with Barry Bonds, and you name the superstars, they've loved him. So I think Bryce Harper and him are going to have a nice relationship, but that's the guy, along with Worth, along with Ryan Zimmerman, that you need to start to have in March behind you.